Looks like Zoom has it live now. Yes, we are live on YouTube. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sheila Corona. Welcome to New Light Streaming Love. Today is Saturday, December the 27th, 2024. And I hope everyone's doing well. It's a lot of weird feeling energy to me. I haven't been anywhere, I haven't done anything. So I really don't have anything to point to other than my own internal feelings about it. But I hope you all are doing well. At this moment of now, as long as the energy holds, I would like to invite you all to another intuitive hangout session for this evening. Now, again, this is if the energy holds. And always and anytime I ever give a time for going live, please know it's always ish with me. Partly because, well, even last time I tried to go live at 8 and it ended up, I had to go, it was like almost 8:30 by the time I got to be live. I'm sure you guys can all relate. Here's the deal for me personally. Ooh, Lease of the Shadows came out for the fairies today. Isn't that interesting? Um, hmm. I was just having a conversation this morning about the dark feminine again, um, rising within myself, and others. The dark feminine is a part of me. It's an aspect that I know I carry. It is an aspect that I know others that carry. And I think that aspect, what keeps being revealed to me in regards to, well, not just that aspect, but all shadows, right? Um, there's a pre-programmed condition that I've had, and I think a lot of us have against anything that's termed dark or evil or whatever, right? I mean, that really has been showing itself to me over the last several years, actually, in regards to that. Well, I'll point again to the Once Upon a Time series by ABC. If you ever have the opportunity to stream binge watch that whole series, I really do feel like there was the energetic there because the villains wanted their happy ever after. Not in a dark and evil way, but they wanted to be included, and also was shown quite a bit of their own backstories as to how this evil actually ended up being, right? So I think there's a whole lot of preconceived notions about what the dark or the evil is in reality. It's not left out from the whole. It's not outside of the all. It's not the opposite. I love what Jordan Peterson has to say about it in very broader, much broader psychological terms. It is only when we deny or suppress the darker parts of ourselves that they are allowed then to run roughshod. That had a very large effect on me once I realized that, not to mention, oh, this one, huh? Oh, we had this one the other day. Okay, this is actually it's not just for her. It is also for me as well. Okay, this is very interesting. As I, and of course, I'm being shown the birds right there. Boy, oh boy. Uh, hmm. And maybe there's something that we're to do together in that to explore that. Hmm. I don't know. We'll see. That's very interesting as to how that's coming about and the why of it. Um, so, hmm. Anyway, I hope you all are doing well. I do see that there are two folks out there. One of them might be me. Uh, I have to say that um, I'm so grateful because you guys really are. And if you're new to the channel, I hope that you'll subscribe. I made mention the other day that I was hoping that we could get our, oh yeah, I love this. Surrender your comparisons with other people. Um, Keep your eyes trained on yourself. Focus on your own strengths, attractiveness, and power. Um, it's the only one I can affect change in anyway. So the truth is, that's a very true statement. No matter what we might think about um, doing that, putting one's full focus on self, a lot of times we're taught that, well, that's selfish, you know, growing up, right? That's conceitedness. Well, I'm not going to say those things don't exist because they do, but that's not what this is referring to, in my view. Um, we are also very much taught to compare ourselves to others. Every test there is about comparing self to others. So that's something that gets begins to be ingrained right from the very beginning. Why can't you be more like your brother? Why can't you be more like your sister? What, those kinds of things are prevalent. Dwell on what you love, yeah, rather than what you lack, huh? These are messages from the universe, and they really wanted to come out um, all the time now. So these will absolutely be making an appearance in every single collective that I do. Asking someone to change is like pruning a tree. Neither will ever be the same again. Scarier still is that you can't quite know what in what new directions they'll grow. I wouldn't change a leaf on you. Love the universe. Wow, I think that's a true statement, and it really sort of, for me, goes hand in hand with what I just said about this over here. Focusing on, keep your eyes trained on yourself, focus on your own strengths, attractiveness, and power. Because I am the only one that I can affect change within, right? And know for certain that I can. Now, I happen to know because I've experienced this now that we emanate, whatever we are doing emanates and affects and effects sometimes change and others in ways that we have no clue. And that's a win-win in my feel of it all, and also quite in that way I'm staying in my lane. That's the one thing that I've had the hardest time with, is learning how to stay in my own lane. And because half the time I think I'm doing something right for myself, and I'll be going along and find out maybe not so much. Maybe, you know what I mean? So until for me, that's all very important information to hang on to. That I I can only affect any sort of change within me. So now this card that we had the other day, the fire ancestor fire sun. I feel like this very specifically, well, I know that this pertains to my at least myself and possibly even one other being. Um, fire ancestor fire sun, which is on page 26. I feel very strongly that there is a portion, an aspect of myself that wants more attention paid to it. And it has to do with ancestry. Well, some ancestors, I think. Your ancestors are asking you to complete what they began on behalf of your bloodline. They have passed down many gifts through your lineage, gifts of spirit and gifts of connection, in addition to all the wonderful qualities that your family line embodies. Now, they are asking for your support. You see, my love, your life is not simply for you and you alone. You are being asked to pick up where your ancestors left off and to align the energies in support of their karmic completion. They left before they could finish their work here. You are being asked to pick up that baton and to complete that work for them. Meditate upon the fire, fortified with all the powers and gifts the ancestors bestowed upon you, and ask how you can be of service to them. I know we had this the other day, and I know I read this, but it feels like I'm hearing that for the first time. Isn't that interesting? I feel very, like I said, this is very specific to me. I would love to hear if you are getting something out of it for you. It is it is labeled card number 14, which is 5 numerologically, which is exactly the same number of the card that myself and Crystal were speaking about this morning. So because I was marveling at the card that showed itself for her the other day when she asked for a card in the intuitive hangout session. Wow. That because there's an aspect there that I feel we both carry differently, but this aspect of the dark feminine is there within both of us. So that's very interesting. Ooh. I don't know. I'm wondering, is anybody else having issues with your wrists? All of a sudden, my left wrist is really having a time. Mm, 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 mm. This is the morning mojo and coffee chat, by the way. So I hope you have your morning beverage of whatever. Well, of course, it's not morning anymore now, but it was here on the East Coast. It is still on the West Coast for those of you that may be joining 3 hours behind. I do know that we have a couple of folks from the West Coast. Mm-mm-mm. Delicious. Okay, so Lise of the Shadows wants to be next, and we'll save the Rumi card for last. Her card is card number 44, which, is considered in some circles to be a master number. 4444 is in some circles considered to be the number of the archangels. So I find this very interesting to me in particular, especially with my experiences of those numbers. Lease of the Shadows. The key words for this card are healing the shadows, addictions, bondage, self esteem. I am still working through, I have a horrific addiction to sugar and found myself comforting myself the other day by purchasing some popsicles that I know are not good for me on any sort of level, but don't think that I haven't eaten them because I certainly have. I adore popsicles, even in cold weather. I don't know what in the world, but I'm just allowing it to be. So I am moving towards, let's put it that way. It's really hard this time of year too, but I am moving towards not indulging in that. I will be in this next week making my chocolate again, which is really more of a health thing than it is a sweet. I mean, it is a sweet treat. Don't get me wrong, but at least it doesn't have sugar in it, and the majority of what it's three ingredients is the main: coconut oil, cacao powder, and maple syrup. I mean, all of those have wonderful things in them. So Lise works hard. She has a very tough job to do, and she puts a great deal of tough love into it. She prowls the night streets looking for those in need of her help and finds far too many of them. Lise is the patron fairy of social workers, therapists, healers, and all others who try to help alcoholics and drug addicts and other souls caught in the darkness of their own inner shadows, or who are abused by those who should have protected them. However, she doesn't sit in an office somewhere. She is out there on the dark and dangerous streets, lending a healing hand here, soothing an anguished brow there, whispering comfort and encouragement into a lonely ear, and bringing a touch of hopeful rainbow light into the deepest shadows, including those in darkened human hearts. Much of her work flows through the hearts and then the hands and words of humans who make themselves available for such work. She inspires souls to connect with one another in a healing way. Her speciality is help for the hopeless, for the ones that most everyone else, including themselves, have given up on: the street people, the lost children of our society, those who have fallen through the cracks and rips in our feeble social safety nets. She often works through human hands, and she may call upon you for help in her work. Out of curiosity, I asked Lise why she chose to have her card in this particular group of fairies instead of the one before. And the way this book is situated, there's uh, folks that help, and then there's also fairies that are challengers, right? And she's in the challenger section. She shrugged and gave me a cheeky grin and said, "These guys know where to find the best nectar and nuts." Even though she has wings, our Lise is very down to earth and practical. Ultimately, Lise is trying to help people develop true self respect and self esteem. But she has to start much farther down the scale of idealism than that. She tries to inspire practical help for those who need it most. She is the inspiration for the first wobbly steps taken by a damaged soul toward healing. Her presence in a reading indicates that something that had seemed lost and fixed in that loss is now open to healing. Okay, very interesting for me in particular. Someone is ready to begin with help the climb out of the inner mire, there is hope here and a need for loving kindness tempered by practicality. If you call upon Lise for assistance in helping another, she will always give it, often by encouraging that person to be receptive and others to also be helpful. She always has time to support those who have time for others. And for some reason, oh, good morning, Vanessa. Oh, thank you. Well, actually, I found that recipe again because I know that I have a sweet tooth. Again, you don't get to 490 pounds without discovering some things about yourself. And trying to practicing getting myself off of that sugar addiction. My father had shared with me when we were able to spend some time together some information about coconut oil, and the next thing I know, this recipe dropped in my lap, and coconut oil actually apparently has been shown to begin reversing the effects of Alzheimer's. My dad shared that with me, and he had become a big proponent of having a lot of coconut oil in his diet. And when I found the chocolate recipe, I was like, well, wow, this is a way to get 2 tablespoons of coconut oil into you in a very pleasurable manner. And so, you know, that's just the basic recipe, because then you can add nuts, you can add dried fruit. I have also added uh culinary lavender. It's just endless. That is exactly the work I did for your entire career. Well, especially with this card coming out today as well, I would say, especially after we had our conversation, that this is specific into, um, okay, you were focused outwardly throughout your career, and now it's time to turn that same focus inward. Um, and I'm happy to share the exact recipe with you, but there's so many of them on the internet. You just Google, coconut cacao chocolate recipe, and because some of them are equal measurements, some of them are so there's also a fair amount of experimenting you might want to do. I feel as though this whole thing right here, and we're going to see what the Rumi card has to say. But all of these together are telling me to go deeper, into me, to realize, specifically because this is saying that there is a wound now that may be a little more open uh, and easier uh, for all of us, anyone whose focus is that, to get in and to, because sometimes wounds can be so painful that just getting near it sends shock waves of pain, right? But I also am now a firm believer in that pain is an alert signal, desperately trying to get my attention to something. Um, oh, that's interesting. This popped right open to the right page. So what we have here is card number 28. That's a 1 numerologically. That's the I am to me. And it is called Enter the Garden of Delights. And so, are you aware that sweetness is found everywhere in town? Kind of funny because I was just talking about sugar, huh? Ah, are you aware that winter is gone and spring has come around? Are you aware that sweet basil and the carnation are whispering in the garden and laughing about how simply everything is found? Are you aware the nightingale has come back from its flight, singing out messages of love to spread delight with every sound? Everything in the garden is granted the right from the divine court to appear for our delight. Everything is here to make the earth green and alive as a haven for our life. What remains buried in the soil will always endeavor to reach out. No one truly alive can ever be pawned to a prison or a tomb. Rumi. Wow, that's a very interesting way to put that, especially with what we just read about pruning. Hmm? Hmm. There's something that's trying to come in for me in regards to especially that ancestor card because I keep being shown there's this one scene that I keep being shown of a druid, and I'm not quite clear what all that is about, but there's something there. So, and specifically, I guess I'm going to have to sit and do some candle gazing because what it said about fire really struck a chord within me. So, there are multiple ways of of focusing inward. The intuitive hangout sessions really are a way to hone my inner voice, but and it's also a lot of fun, right? However, I when there's a more intense, personal, private, like this obviously must be for me, um, I'm feeling that, and I've heard others say that candle gazing is a good way to get in. You're not going to believe what this is about, Crystal. I don't know if you've been hearing it, but you might want to go back and listen because this card showed up again. And I don't know, but I'm telling you, for me specifically, there's something about it. So, oh my goodness. So, to finish out the Rumi card here, there is a sweet spot when entering the Garden of Delights, a moment where the senses have gorged themselves upon beauty and become heavy with their fullness, slowing the mind so that it can perceive the divine beloved dancing behind the veils of nature. But first comes the sensual feasting. Blooming orchids arrest the gaze with their startling and strange beauty. Nectar from the ripest fruits of the garden drips luscious and sweet upon a savoring tongue. Hungry for gossip, the tears shamelessly eavesdrop upon the birds in melodic conversation. They sing of greatest, most passionate love and boundless living joy. The ears open wide to take it all in. The craving for touch is sated by rough textured bark falling from the ancient trees, soft, dewy grasses, cool in the shade, the crunching leaves making their sounds under the hot sun and dancing feet, and the caress of that sunlight upon bare shoulders with weight of its own, like a silken wrap placed just so by a caring lover's hand. The breeze, the very breath of the beloved Earth Mother, is sweet with scent of lavender and jasmine, warmed by the Sun Father. Oh, drink it in until your arms raise themselves to heaven. Your head tilts, eyes rolling back in your head, and your sacred animal body is mindless and in love. By the way, Crystal, that right there is what I was speaking on when you and I were together this morning talking about loneliness, right? That right there is exactly the feeling. The Garden of Delights, narcotic in effect, lulling the senses from tension into sacred languor, that love may be experienced. Let us rest here in the midst of so much life, where the goodness of life is felt and the heart is free from any prison of pain or doubt. Come, be in the garden with me now. Let us be free and feast to our heart's content. You see, I'm convinced that as humans, and me in particular, there's a confusion within me in regards to exactly what this speaks of. You know, on the one hand, we're taught quite very clearly, actually, due to the comparison with others, right? That's something that everyone should expect, right? When we have a partnership, a loving partnership. Came in on candle gazing, basically. Yeah, well, because of what that actually said about the fire, I got a hit for me in regards to that. So, you have been granted entry into sacred space, a mihrab, a sanctuary for worship. When the soul is well acquainted with love, life becomes a temple of love, the sacred space in which the soul can grow powerful through expansive worship of love. You see, I'm very clear that I don't have a good handle on what that word actually means. Oh, I have some ideas. I know what I would like for it to mean, but what does it actually mean? There's all kinds of denotation about the word love, but the connotation always trumps the denotation, no matter who and what. And all of us, bar none, have been raised to think different things about love. And so, just the very, well, intimacy, yes, in many ways. Crystal and I were speaking on that too. Um, because even at that, folks have different ideas about what intimacy is. Very clearly, I was married to someone who thought that sex equaled intimacy. No, no. I've had sex with loads of people. Well, you know, more than one. Uh, but true intimacy has nothing to do with sex. Not at all. I've been more intimate on this channel with all of you than I think we ever were together as a couple. And that was 28 and a half years. So for me, the definition of intimacy is pretty deep and not at all what his was, obviously. You are being invited by your spiritual brother, Rumi, to enter into life, to commit to coming alive, even if at times this feels deeply challenging. Sometimes a part of you may rather stay locked in an illusion of security for a time. Okay, guilty. Perhaps expressed through the preference for what is known over what is unknown, what is familiar and comfortable compared to that which is unfamiliar or uncomfortable. To tussle with the parts of us that would deny aliveness is a natural part of growth. It can seem so risky with such potential for heartache. And yet, what could be more heart wrenching than the slow death of a precious human soul, suffocated by fear and inertia? I'm 63 years old. I laid at death's door for 12 years. That was my own doing. That was my own doing. And we can sit here and call it whatever we want to, but it was a way of slow suicide, and which is actually more of an acceptable suicide, if you get my meaning. Oh, I've said those words now. Unfortunately, this probably won't last very long, so I forgot about that. Damn it. Well, that's too bad. Just one more thing in regards to censorship, isn't it? I'm very clear that I was killing myself, that I was running myself right off the planet, and that sometimes I'm still doing that in varying different ways. I'm not allowing myself to run, though, not anymore. I question myself quite thoroughly. And if I can't get to the bottom of it, I got two beings in my life that I reach out to immediately, Crystal and Lisa. And I'm so grateful for having both of them in my life, that they are willing to continue time and again to allow me to reach out to them. Doing this sort of work when one really wants to see all of oneself isn't easy at all. Um, so I would say that's very true. It is compared to that. What did it say here? Sometimes a part of you may rather stay locked in an illusion of security for a time, perhaps expressed through the presence for what is known over what is unknown. What is familiar and comfortable, even if it doesn't feel all that great, it's still more, the devil you do know, as opposed to the devil you don't, compared to that which is unfamiliar or uncomfortable. To tussle with the parts of us that would deny aliveness is a natural part of growth. It can seem so risky with such potential for heartache, and yet, what could be more heart wrenching than the slow death of a precious human soul suffocated by fear and inertia? That is the greatest risk of never really and fully being born into this world of wonders, which I'm clear I never actually allowed myself to be fully present. I'm still in the midst of trying to accomplish that now. So, Rumi is your midwife, there to ensure full spiritual birth. He is standing at the threshold with you now. You are being asked to cross this threshold from the life you have been living into the aliveness that is flickering and glowing at your feet. It is love's wild hot embers at your sacred feet. They will erupt at any moment into a holy inferno, taking hold of you and igniting you from within, transforming you into living fire. That's kind of what I see Azoth to be, and why when I see that energy, I call it out as Azoth because it's a mixture to me of fire and water becoming something totally new, right? And that's just my interpretation of it. To come alive requires shedding of so much adherence to the fear of death. That's so true. The great brother whispers wisdom into your heart. You have heard it, felt it already. The fear of death is so much more terrible than death itself. Boy, oh boy, if this book that I'm recording is not doesn't show that, boy, oh, and because this is so close to what I think I might have always suspected, I I hope to have it done by Sunday night for release Monday morning. Nothing is dying in you but fear, so the heart can live more freely. Death and life are twin angels dancing together in communion with the sacred. They are not opposed. They bring the soul aliveness and make the garden of delights possible. They bring the seasons of the soul that foster growth and take the appearance of dying away, which is actually part of the cycle of life again and again and again. You have been through much death, dear one, around you, within you. You have known this dark angel. That is why you are so full of life. Your attempts to stay as you have been, to render something in your life immobile or impervious to change, have failed. Let us celebrate. There is no delight in frozen moments long since past. Why try to feast upon such food? It will not nourish you anywhere near as deeply and fully as fresh from the oven morsels of life. Come, let us taste all that is on offer. We'll drink headily and sate our deepest thirst. Let us enjoy the richness of the meal in gratitude for its preparation and awe at the skill involved in such masterful creation. Do not let the memory of death starve you of your participation in life. Wow, that's a huge one right there, if you ask me. Do not let the memory of death starve you of your participation in life. Do you hold on still to that which is past? I will soothe you with a loving touch upon your back, and yet gently I will turn your head to the right and urge you to see the rising sun. Your life is blessed, you see. I want you to know this now. I want you to accept this now. Let those horrors of the past be gone. They are no more than phantoms. The garden is here now to be touched, tasted, seen, heard, felt, inhaled, and loved. This oracle comes with a message. A new day is dawning for you. This is a time when the past will very soon cease to have any hold over you. Wow, I was just flashed about leaving this house. There are ghosts here that, unbeknownst to myself, I've allowed myself to be haunted by in some way. That's interesting. Didn't know that. Celebration is imminent. You are invited into the golden light of divine plenty. Put your worries behind you now and step into your divine inheritance, where all is sorted, according to kindness and grace. Well, I need to pay attention to that because now all of a sudden my nose is really itching, and especially right here. I haven't looked lately. I got to look at that. Maybe I've jumped over to another timeline again. Wow. Put your worries behind you now and step into your divine inheritance where all is sorted according to kindness and grace. Wow. I hope that was helpful for everyone. Let me go back here. Y'all been just chatting it up. Let me see where we are. Okay. So, on my way soon to another specialist appointment. I feel you, Vanessa. I know you've got so much physical stuff going on. I send so much love for you, my love. Richard said yes, sacred space for inner intimacy. Yeah, inner intimacy, you said. And I mean, inner intimacy within ourselves. Yes, that's a very real thing too. I'm not even talking about others. Yep. Oh, you're very kind. Richard said, of course you are deep. Yeah, I'm pretty effing deep, man. Vanessa said, my friend, that is a loaded question. Oh, yeah, that was to Richard. Yeah. Sheila's podcasts are amazing insight help so much lately. Oh, you're so sweet, honey. Thank you for that. Well, I am going to come back this evening as long as the energy holds. Right now, I feel great. I plan on taking a little rest this afternoon so that I can come back tonight and hone my skills. So if you're up for that, would love to have you join. Um, Yeah, Sheila, we need to go through that spiral. Yep, I tell you, I've been I've been for years hiding and protecting myself. Well, and as long as a being feels that they need or require protection, then absolutely, they certainly do. And I would never advocate not doing so. For me personally, the moment I throw up any sort of protections, I can't, I've never felt to do that. It never felt right for me personally. That doesn't mean that it's not right for others. That's why I want to be absolutely clear about that, very specifically clear about that, because each of us, our mileage absolutely varies, even though there are lots of similarities between beings, and even those who feel like, that they're of the same soul family group or whatever, it's still a very intimate, by the way, thing. And each has to move through their own and find for themselves. Death is my close, dear friend. I have to tell you, I've had several conversations of that ilk for me. Is it true that everyone has 7 exit points throughout their lifetime? You know what? I have a feeling there are as many exit points as a being requires. I don't know, again, because it is such an individuated path. Um, because I've had over 20 surgeries. So were every one of those exit points? I don't know. But I really do feel like we all have um uh do you talk about the way of lefting through chakras? I'm not quite sure what you meant by that, Richard. Journey into it. Do not let the memory of death starve you from the. Yes, that was absolutely right. And I had to read it for a second time too, Journey. That's why I thought that, yes, I can. I will absolutely send you a picture of this one. Richard said, changing timelines so much that our entire group have Mandela effect like mad. Yes, I'm sure. I am absolutely certain you're right with that. Yeah, there is Crystal. You and I really, I feel like this, and there's something here for both of us in particular, specifically. And I'm not quite clear exactly what it is. Perhaps when I get in your field on Tuesday, the two of us should spend a little time. I know this is going to sound weird, but holding hands and candle gazing together. I don't know that that will do anything, but I don't know why. And it just now came in for me to say that. So I don't know if you're open to trying it. Maybe that would be could be a good thing for us because we will be in each other's fields on Tuesday. Um, I do know that as I was reading this one about the ancestor and again, lease of the shadows, I got a hit about BQH. Now, whether that's, and it might be that you do one for me and then I do one for you. I don't know, but there's something that may be worth our trying there. Um, so yeah, I guess like I said, yes, it's definitely worth a try. Well, when we get together, I have a feeling that we'll know more or we will be able to glean more, right? That's what that feels like. Well, that's it for me, guys. I hope this was helpful for you. It certainly was helpful for me. And I'm going to just quickly go through, especially this this universe. All of this feels like it's very specific. The universe card, dwell on what you love, right? Asking someone to change is like pruning a tree. Neither will ever be the same again. Scarier still is that you can't quite know in what new directions they'll grow. I wouldn't change a leaf on you, the universe. Well, I feel like it's specific to this, right? Surrender comparisons with other people. Keep your eyes trained on yourself. Focus on your own strengths, attractiveness, and power. I feel like these two are very much together here. This one too, right? She talks about help for the hopeless, right? And it's not lost on me because I was flashed what a question that you posted, Crystal, in regards to hope, right? And that came up for me when I was reading this. Um, so I don't know. There's something in uh, because yeah, on the one hand, um, hope is always out there somewhere, perpetually out there, where it's okay. So for me, it could be perceived as a form of lack. I'm lacking something, so I hope I can get that, right? Or I can experience that or whatever. So there's a couple of different frames of mind about that for me, right? I love what this Rumi card had to say. All of it seems to be very much together. I hope you guys enjoyed that as well. Richard said, thanks, Sheila. I will suggest that candle ritual to my group. Okay, awesome. Well, yeah, for me, I don't know as I would call it a ritual unless, there's something that you would like to ritualize about it. But for me, it's a method of I can't breathe around a campfire. Believe you me, I used to love an old-fashioned bonfire standing out in the middle of the night and especially in this kind of cold weather where you're huddling by the fire. But I'm having trouble breathing right now, so that's really just not in the cards for me. I did buy myself a propane faux fire, and I do have access to that. Perhaps maybe I'll even try to set that up in some kind of way or something to be able to do that. But um, So, but at any rate, yes. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Join me this evening. I will put notice about the timing on my Facebook page as well as on the community tab of the YouTube page to let you know the around ish. Remember, anytime Sheila gives you a time, don't hold my feet to the fire because sometimes I'll come in here and I'll turn on the computer and I have to reboot or something's not working right or I forgot this, so I got to go get that and all those kind of things. So just know that that is my plan at the moment, and I will let you know for certain the ish time. Until we meet again, I hope that you will move towards that which brings you joy in each moment that presents itself to you. It really is just a matter of your perspective and whether or not you allow yourself the time. And I'll tell you, since I discovered that I am what's known as an emotional projector, I allow myself time now to feel all of my feelings all the way through. And if somebody has to have an answer about something from me and they can't wait for me to feel all the way through, then the answer is no, because I am going to allow myself the time that it might take to understand me. Till next